Hello, my name is Joel Wallace, and this is my unit reflection for AEP 867. The goal I created for my unit was I was trying to instruct my students on how to multiply numbers that included decimals to the tenths place. When reflecting back on my lessons, these are kind of the conclusions I've come to. First, when I think about did the task yield appropriate evidence of the identified understanding? By the end of my instruction period, I definitely felt as though students were able to demonstrate an understanding. They were able to do the multiplication and show me they knew the proper steps and where to place their decimal at the very end. The one thing that was a challenge was just basic multiplication. Once you get to the 2-digit times 2-digit, it can be a challenge for even fifth graders at times. So while I did spend some time reviewing prior to the lesson, I probably need to spend additional effort and time if I were to reteach this unit in the future, just to make sure that they have that skill going into this primary goal of multiplying numbers to the tenths place. When I think about did the task involve a complex, real-world, authentic application of the identified knowledge, skill, and understandings, I would say somewhat. If I'm being honest, when multiplying by decimals, I was having trouble finding real-world applications. With students in fifth grade, I'm trying to find something that is real to them and how they can apply it to their own lives. Money is always kind of an easy one for students, when we're working with decimals, and that's a real thing to students. But I try to, incorporate grade point averages and other items like that, but even some of that stuff the students just don't quite have a grasp on. So finding really authentic ways that are things that kids are actually going to understand and know and be able to apply to was a bit of a challenge, but I was able to make some connections with that. Next, when I was considering were there a variety of appropriate assessment formats used to provide additional evidence of learning, I think this one was actually quite strong in my unit. I was able to use several different methods and forms of assessments. One, we just do class practice where students are drawing on their whiteboards for example problems I've developed, and so I can kind of watch and see who, just initially after I've taught it, who seems to be understanding the content and who do I need to spend some additional time modeling and teaching, reteaching, just going back through the steps. After that, we moved into, once I thought the class was ready, we moved into just their math workbooks, where they have workbook pages that they are required to complete. They actually did really good with this. Sometimes I have students work with partners if I think it's really going to be a challenging goal or objective, but this one I had them work independently, and the large majority of the class did a really good job, and again was able to demonstrate an understanding for that. We always kind of a few students that struggled, but even those students with a little additional support from myself and other support in the classroom, they were able to demonstrate at least a basic understanding of the concepts. And then finally, another resource I used was we use a website called Zearn. It's a math-based website where I can select specific standards that I want students to focus on, and they can practice it on their computers. The website is nice because it kind of it becomes custom to the students' ability levels. If they're excelling, then it'll kind of raise the difficulty, but if they are struggling, then it kind of finds questions to kind of guide them in the right direction for what they do. So overall, I really felt like I was able to come up with several different methods, so it wasn't just like one thing that I was able to assess and see what their level of achievement was. The last question was, are students given the opportunity to self-assess and reflect upon their learning and performance? This is another one that I felt kind of mixed about. When I am doing the guided practice as a class, they do, I tell them whether or not they are right or wrong on their answers, and they're given time to reflect on their answer and go back and make corrections just kind of in that moment. It's kind of just a quick response time that seems to work really well. And then also, once I had the students go back and complete their work in their workbooks, I oftentimes have them. I'll check their assignments and any incorrect answers they might have. I give them time to go back and make corrections and things like that. If I think they need reteaching or to go back over some of it before I hand it back to them, then I'll spend some time with them going back over. But a lot of times I'll have them really kind of sit down. I'll tell them it's wrong. I won't tell them what's wrong with it, but they need to go back and make the correction themselves. So to me, that gives them that opportunity to really kind of assess the situation or assess the questions and see kind of what they need to do to correct that and get the right answer.